Some people grin at disaster a little too fast. The joke lands before the room has even figured out what happened. They shrug off bad news, calm everyone else down, and somehow look almost comfortable when things go sideways. From the outside, it reads like confidence, sometimes even strength, but if you look closer, it can feel eerily familiar. The body that never really unclenches, the scan of every face at the table, the split-second calculation behind the eyes, before they say, "It is fine." And that is the unsettling part. The people who have lived through too much don't always look shattered. A lot of them look functional, funny, helpful, weirdly steady, so they become hard to read, even to themselves. They can sit through chaos with a perfectly calm voice, all while their heart is sprinting. It shows up in ordinary moments, so small, nobody else clocks them. You're at dinner, and while everyone's deciding on appetizers, your body has already mapped the exits. The tone of the waiter, the tension between the couple two tables over. You don't notice a vibe, you scan instantly. A pause that lasts half a second too long. A smile held a beat too tight. And that sounds useful until you realize how expensive it is to live like that. You become the person who can tell someone is upset before they admit it, which means you start managing rooms that were never yours to manage. You check in carefully, phrase things gently, rehearse the safest way to ask if they're okay, all while your own chest is braced like impact is coming. People call you thoughtful, deeply intuitive, the one who just gets it. So you sit where you can see the door. You keep your phone charged above 80%. You leave early just in case. A simple coffee plan somehow turns into 3 backup routes. Weather checks, parking options, and an invisible contingency folder in your head. Not because you're dramatic, because somewhere along the line, surprise stopped feeling fun and started feeling dangerous. Safety was never assumed. That is the part that stings. When people praise your resilience, they admire how calm you are in chaos, how quickly you adapt, and how weirdly good you are at reading people. But calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it is freeze with excellent manners. Sometimes it is a child-grown adult who learned that noticing everything was the closest thing to protection. If that part hit a little too close, you're probably already recognizing the private script that runs underneath it. You minimize, deflect, and just keep moving. It wasn't that bad. Other people had it worse. I'm fine. Not because you're lying, exactly. More because saying it out loud feels dramatic. And somewhere along the line, dramatic stopped feeling safe. So you learned to make your pain sound smaller than it was. You turn a wreck into a funny story. You make your exhaustion sound like bad sleep. That is why so many people like this confuse everyone in relationships, including themselves. You can be the first person to answer a midnight call, the one who remembers the allergy, the court date, the exact tone in someone's text. That means they're not okay. But when it is your turn, when somebody asks what you need, what hurt, what you're afraid of, your chest gets tight, your brain goes blank, and suddenly you're weirdly busy. You'll offer help, rides, money, advice, logistics, jokes, snacks, literally your last clean ounce of energy. But being seen while needing something back, that can feel unbearable. So, if you've ever felt like two people at once, the one aching for real connection, and the one quietly rehearsing how to leave before you rely too much, you're not broken, and you're definitely not the only one. A lot of highly capable, deeply caring people are walking around with that exact contradiction tucked under their ribs. They look independent, they sound low maintenance, they pride themselves on not needing much, and yet Loneliness sits beside them in the car, at the kitchen sink. In the 2 a.m. glow of a phone, they keep checking, even while telling themselves they don't care. So no, the person spiraling over the wrong coffee mug is not proving they can't cope. They're revealing where control still feels possible. The huge things, money, illness, betrayal, whether someone stays, whether the ground shifts again, those have already taught them a brutal lesson. You do not always get a vote. So the brain adapts. It stops wasting energy pretending it can command the storm and pours that energy into tiny levers instead. The mug, the route home, and the dark humor, same mechanism, different costume. It is not carelessness, it is counter-pressure. If pain arrives, trying to own the room, the joke cuts across it for 3 seconds and says, not entirely. That laugh is not denial, it is a hand on the throat of helplessness. A fast, clever way to shrink something that once felt enormous. This is why the contradictions make sense. Once you know who was forced to adapt, they can be weirdly calm during a crisis, and then unravel over a minor detail. Not because the detail matters more, but because the crisis is familiar territory. The body already knows the choreography. Tighten, scan, function, survive. Ordinary softness is the part that went missing. Ease, unguardedness. The version of you that didn't check the room before laughing, didn't rehearse conversations in the shower, didn't read silence like a threat report. That is the real theft underneath all this. Not weakness, not failure. A self that had to be traded for safety. What is one tiny habit in your life that feels small, but might actually be your nervous system trying to keep the lights on? Here's the hard part. Nobody teaches you after you've spent years adapting to chaos. Insight is not protection. You can understand exactly why you overread a text, why a slammed cabinet makes your stomach drop, why silence feels loaded, and still hand your nervous system to people who play rough with it. So the protocol has to be practical, not inspirational. If your body finally found a little peace, stop offering it as a public resource. Start with the simplest rule. Believe patterns faster than apologies. If someone keeps forgetting what matters to you, keeps joking past your no, keeps making you explain why basic respect matters, do not turn that into a puzzle to solve. Turn it into data. Your chest tightening during a conversation, your jaw locking before their name lights up, the weird fatigue after seeing them, those are not character flaws. That is your internal alarm panel doing its job. Next, protect your inputs like they matter because they do. Not every call gets answered. Not every family update deserves your bloodstream. Not every crisis belongs in your lap just because you're good in emergencies. Mute the thread, leave the room, eat before the hard conversation. Sit in your car for 2 extra minutes before going inside. Put your feet on the floor and name 5 blue objects. Especially if you feel yourself leaving your body. Regulation is not selfish. It is sovereignty in physical form. And one more thing, stop confusing familiarity with trust. A chaotic person can feel like home to a system trained in static, but that does not make them safe. Safe usually feels quieter than you expected. Less chemistry, more consistency, fewer grand gestures, more follow-through. If you've had to rebuild yourself a dozen times, let this be the version that doesn't call hypervigilance intuition. What boundary did your body learn before your mind had words for it? So this is the part that matters most. You do not owe anyone your old tolerance for chaos, not your instant understanding, not your self-erasing humor, not that eerie calm you built in rooms where you had no real choice. Survival taught you powerful things, yes, but now you get to decide where those skills are used and where they stop at the door. And if you've made it this far, let this land clearly. What happened may have shaped your reflexes, but it does not get permanent ownership of your identity. You are not just the one who can handle anything. You are also allowed to want ease, slowness, tenderness, and a life that does not require constant bracing. That choice is not weakness. It is recovered authority.